Yo, what's going on guys? HyperX here. Welcome back to another video for Elden Ring, and in this one I want to give you a quick rundown on how to get infinite FP, or at least how to regenerate your FP. Basically I want to go through a whole host of items, weapons, helmets, talisman, and of course also a tier for your wondrous flask of physic that of course can either give you infinite FP or can regenerate your FP, therefore by extension giving you a quote-unquote endless supply of FP. Admittedly you need a catchy title for the video, hence the infinite, but in some situations that is of course legitimately true. Other situations, the regen mechanic means you can make your FP go much further, meaning you can use more skills more frequently, and of course therefore deal more damage. So all in all, it's pretty useful, and of course depending on the way that you are spec'd, whether you are focusing on spells, incantations, or weapon skills, this will still apply. So if you guys do enjoy this, a like would be super appreciated. If you do find this helpful, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if there are other items you think are worth talking about, and of course if you have been enjoying the Elden Ring content, make sure you stay subscribed for plenty more. So to begin with, let's go through some of the items first, and then I will go through where you can find all of them. So initially, the very first weapon is the Sacrificial Axe. Described as a hatchet used in ancient sacrificial rites, a death bird is depicted as a malevolent deity, given of course you get it from one of the death birds. This is a very customizable weapon, since it does allow you to apply your own Ashes of War. However, it also has the nice added bonus that a small amount of FP is restored upon slaying a foe. So if you do like this weapon, you like axes, which are definitely always a cool pick. This has attribute scaling in strength and dex with a requirement of 16 strength and 10 dex. So of course you can build around this one, you can spec it up, you can upgrade it, you can make it pretty potent, and you can then still benefit from the fact that you can get FP gain on kill. And of course when you apply an Ash of War, it does not remove that because that is not tied to the Ash of War. That is simply a native behavior of this weapon. And while of course the kills will not replenish your entire bar, depending on of course the weapon skills that you are using, the regain you get is still pretty nice. So there's no two ways about it, it will definitely make your FP go further. Alternatively, you have the Sword of Milos, or Milos. I'm not actually sure how you're supposed to pronounce it. It is an incredibly menacing looking sword. I'm telling you right now, I would not want to be hit by this thing. This thing looks brutal. It is a sinister greatsword fashioned from a giant's backbone. The spines along each side of the blade have been tapered to a fine point to mete out wounds like a lopsided saw blade. Of course, this has the unique skill Shriek of Milos, where it lets out a horrific cursed scream that reduces all damage negation and status resistances for nearby foes. And while active, strong attacks will also change into a combo attack. So that is pretty nice. This of course is a unique weapon, upgraded by Somber Smithing Stone, so you cannot change the Ash of War on this one. However, this has the same behavior. While it does not list it, this will also regenerate FP on kill. So same principle, it can again make that Ash of War go a little bit further, which is pretty nice. Now outside of that, on the armor pieces, one of these I spoke about the other day if you guys saw our video on the Ice Dragon build, but we do have various permutations of the Scarabs. We have the Ash of War Scarab, which of course is a helmet that will slightly reduce the FP cost of skills. Do keep in mind it does increase the damage taken, so depending on what you're fighting, you might not like the fact that it doesn't have great damage negation. It does make you a little bit vulnerable, but if you are really wanting to make your FP go much further, then I'm going to give you all your possible options. So of course this one reduces the FP cost of skills. Keep in mind if your focus here is weapon skills, this will be the go-to. You then have a different colour version, which is the Glintstone Scarab. Same behaviour, only this one is for reducing the FP cost of sorceries specifically, again increasing the damage taken. And then finally you have one for incantations, so again same principle, reducing that FP cost of your incantations with the caveat that you take increased damage. So those are three different options. And then on your talisman front, you have the Carrion Filigreed Crest, which of course is a very nice one, just lowers the FP consumed by skills. There is no negative side to this one, it will not make you take more damage, it is just a nice free FP reduction. You do then have the Primal Glintstone Blade. If you, of course, focusing on sorceries and incantations, this will reduce FP consumption of both of those, but at the cost of your maximum HP, so you will take a little bit of an L for that one. You have the Ancestral Spirit's Horn, which is a nice sort of a combination one because this of course will restore FP upon defeating enemies as well. So that is of course the nice behaviour. Maybe if you weren't going to run one of those primary weapons, you could of course just use this one to benefit from that slightly. And then finally you do have the Assassin's Cerulean Dagger, which is of course one where critical hits will restore FP. So not something you will necessarily use as frequently as say some of the other ones, but again it is another option, and in the interest of showing you various different options for increasing FP, restoring FP, or making your FP go further, then hopefully hopefully this helps. And then finally, we cannot go without mentioning quite possibly the most important item in any sort of mention on unlimited FP, and that is the Cerulean Hidden Tear, which is one of the things you can mix into your Wondrous Physic Flask, and when you consume this one, it will eliminate all FP consumption, admittedly only for a limited window, but if you do plan to spam something, this is typically used in those sorcery builds where of course you can just spam out the massive beam, the Kamehameha, and rinse enemy health bars, but still it is a must-have item. So, those are some of the options for reducing or making your FP go further, and by extension, kind of giving you infinite FP. So let's go through where to grab them all. For the first one, starting off with the weapons, you need to go over to Castle Morn. You can go to the Castle Morn Lift Site of Grace. You will need to set time of day to night because you will need to fight a Deathbird, and from there, you then want to go northwest, basically over towards this sort of cliff area here. When you get there and it's nighttime, a Deathbird will fly down. You need to defeat that, and you will then get the Sacrificial Axe. For the Sword of Milos or Milos, you will need to go and basically sort of complete or finish off the Dung Eater questline. Keep in mind that of course once you've got to some progress in the game, you will then have these doors open in Round Table Hold and you can go and speak to him. In order to progress his quest, you will need a Seedbed Curse which comes from various different locations, and then once you've spoken to him, he will then basically give you the Sewer Jail Key. Also, massive shout out to you guys for correcting my pronunciation on that. I didn't know about the Old English word, and it's not pronounced Gaol, it is pronounced Jail. So anyway, thank you. He will give you the Sewer Jail Key, and from there what you then want to do is go to the Underground Roadside Site of Grace, and you then want to follow this route here, where you need to go out of the doors, take a left, and run towards the grates. Once you get there, you will then want to drop down, take a left, and continue running to the very end. Once you get past there, you want to go left and run past all the plants and climb the ladder. Once you're then in this room, you will then want to watch out for the hands there, but there is a jail door at the end, and you use the key and you go in and you'll find the Dung Eater banging his head against the wall. You can speak to him first and sort of have a little dialogue with him, but ultimately, once you're finished, you'll need to attack him and defeat him, and doing so will give you not only his weapon, but also his armor set. For the Ash of War Scarab helmet, you need to go over to the Divine Tower of Limgrave, or at least that general direction. You actually want to turn your attention to the Limgrave Tower Bridge Site of Grace instead. And from there, you then need to run up the stairs, down to the very end of the bridge. And of course, instead of taking the normal teleporter that you would have taken to get to the other side, you instead want to go past, drop down the stairs, and there will be a purple collectible, and that is the Ash of War Scarab helmet. For the Glintstone version, which of course is the one for the spells, you want to go to the Debate Parlour Site of Grace, of course in Leonia, and from there you want to run out of the door ahead of you, and you then want to go towards the side where you jump down to the right and you cross over on those beams to get to the platform where basically the massive ball will roll down and try and squash you. You then want to work to the very top, and you then want to go inside the door and then go into the courtyard, and from there you need to take a left, and we're basically jumping through a window and over the balcony. Once you're inside the building, you need to climb the ladder, and then you want to defeat all the enemies in the room, and once you've done that, there is a chest which you can then open to get that helmet. And then finally, for the Incantation version, what you're going to need to do is go over to Limgrave and go to the Artist Shack. The very first thing you need to do is interact with the painting to make sure you have collected the Homing Instinct painting. And from there, what you then want to do is go down to this location you see on the map. This, of course, is near those ruins. If you go to the first step, Site of Grace, you can run over here. And you're then basically looking for a spirit who is located at exactly this position right now. When you go over there, provided you have the painting, he will disappear. He'll leave an item on the floor. You can pick that up, and that is the Incantation version of the helmet. Then for the Cerulean Dagger, one of the easiest places to get there is to go over to the Ruined Labyrinth Site of Grace, and you then want to run all the way up here, up this pathway, to the very top. If you get to the end, there will of course be a headless ghost which you can defeat, but behind him there is a door which leads you inside the Black Knife Catacombs. Now for this one, you don't actually need to go through and complete the final boss. What you instead need to do is go and follow the path that I'm taking right now. You'll run down towards the doors that will of course need to be opened with a lever. You'll take a left. You then go down those stairs and you will then run straight. And you'll come into a room where there's lots of blades. And of course, initially you'll try and roll through these, but what you actually want to do is use these as a platform. You want to position yourself on the second one and then wait for it to drop down, and it will then raise you up to the upper platform. From there, you can then go and jump over onto the balcony, and you can then run through, get to the very end, and there will be a sort of, well, seemingly a dead end, but in actual fact, you can strike the wall, and then you can run through, and there will be a boss fog door. Go in, defeat the Black Knife Assassin, and you'll then be awarded the Assassin's Cerulean Dagger. For the next one, the Ancestral Spirit's Horn, this one is quite simply a reward for the Remembrance. You'll of course need the Remembrance of the Regal Ancestor, so assuming you have defeated that boss, you can go and trade for this one. For the Carrion Filigree Crest, you of course need to go over to Leonia, go up to the road to the Manor Site of Grace, and you want to go and visit War Councillor Iji. And provided you of course done Blade's portion of Ranni's questline, you can go and speak to him, and you can then go and get or buy the Carrion Filigree Crest for 5,000 runes. And then finally, for the Gleamstone Blade, for this one what you want to do is go over to the Mountaintops of the Giants, go to the Ancient Snow Valley Ruin Site of Grace, and you want to run around this direction here. We're basically be hugging the mountain, because if we go down to the far left, there will be a location we can jump up using our horse, which will put us up to the higher portion of the map. Following there, we can then go over to the Stargazer's Ruins, and when you go inside, there will be a jellyfish. Do not attack this. Instead, this will be a jellyfish that is part of a quest. Near the beginning of the game, you will of course have spoken to someone outside of Stormvale Castle who would have given you the jellyfish summon. And then what you want to do is you want to summon the jellyfish here, and that will then basically complete the quest, and then the barrier that is down the stairs will be removed. You can go in there and you can collect the item. And then finally, for the Cerulean Hidden Tear, of course, if you want that for your flask, you need to go to the Road of Iniquity, which of course is over near Volcano Manor, and from there you simply need to run down the slope towards the Minor Erd Tree, and there will be an ulcerated tree spirit which will spawn. You'll need to defeat that, and that'll give you the tear. So there you have it. There's a little rundown on a bunch of items that will either give you infinite FP, FP regeneration, or lower the cost of FP for skills, spells, and incantations, therefore by extension giving you or making your FP go further. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. Any more questions, let me know in the comments down below. If you missed our recent upload, check out this video, and keep it locked on the channel for plenty more.